What would you do if your child vanished and all you found was a doll that looked exactly like them? What if that doll began to speak with your child's voice, begging you to save them? Tonight's story follows a mother who knew the curse that haunted her family, yet couldn't escape it. A curse that transforms children into vessels for something ancient and hungry, something that's been waiting in the woods for generations. And the only way to free your child? Take their place. Have you ever noticed how some people never go back to where they grew up? How they make excuses, change the subject, or suddenly remember urgent appointments whenever someone suggests a visit to their hometown? Sarah Morgan was one of those people. For 15 years, she'd managed to keep her husband and daughter away from Blackwood, the small forest town where she grew up. She'd invented family emergencies to miss weddings, fabricated work conflicts to skip funerals, even once faked a car breakdown to avoid a high school reunion. But when her father died, leaving them the old family house, her excuses finally ran out. I watched her knuckles turn white on the steering wheel as we approached the town limits. Mark, her husband, sat in the passenger seat, trying to point out landmarks to their 10-year-old daughter Emma in the back. But Sarah kept interrupting. "Don't look out the window, sweetheart," she said, her voice tight as a bowstring. The sun glare is bad for your eyes." But there was no sun that day, only a thick blanket of clouds hanging low over the dense pine forests that surrounded Blackwood on all sides. Mark tried to catch his wife's eye, but she was too busy checking the rearview mirror, again and again, as if she expected someone or something to be following them down the narrow road that cut through the woods like an open wound. When we finally pulled up to the house, even I had to admit it was unsettling. A Victorian monstrosity with peeling blue paint and a sagging porch. Windows like hollow eyes stared down at us. The forest pressed close behind it, trees reaching toward the roof like grasping fingers. "It's just for a month," Mark said, trying to sound cheerful as they carried suitcases inside, "just until we settle the estate and decide whether to sell." But Sarah's face said they wouldn't be staying even that long. That night, Emma raced around the dusty rooms, claiming territory the way kids do. She bounded up the creaking stairs and found a bedroom at the back of the house, one with a large window overlooking the woods. "I want this one," she declared. Sarah appeared in the doorway so suddenly it startled us all. "No," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not this room." Emma's face fell. "Why not? It has the best view." "That was my sister's room," Sarah whispered, then turned and walked away, refusing to elaborate despite Emma's questions echoing down the hallway. Later that night, Mark woke to find the bed beside him empty. He found Sarah sitting at their bedroom window, staring out at the tree line visible in the moonlight. Her cheeks glistened with tears. "They're waiting," she murmured when she sensed him behind her. "They've always been waiting." "Who's waiting, Sarah?" he asked, but she just shook her head and continued her silent vigil until dawn broke through the trees. The next morning at breakfast, Emma announced between bites of cereal, "Someone was calling my name last night." Sarah dropped the plate she was holding. It shattered across the kitchen floor, fragments scattering like stars. "You don't hear anything?" she insisted, her voice rising. "There's nothing in those woods." But Emma was drawn to the forest edge. While her mother napped from exhaustion that afternoon, she slipped outside. I watched her collecting strange twigs arranged in patterns, finding old toys half buried in the dirt. A headless doll, a rusted music box, a tiny shoe. "Someone wants to play with me," she told her father when he found her there. Neither of them noticed Adele watching from the kitchen window, her face drained of color. That night, every door was locked, every window nailed shut. Liam found his wife with a hammer, frantically driving nails into window frames, muttering about keeping them out. Finally, he grabbed her wrists. "What happened here, Adele?" What are you not telling us?" Her hands shook as she opened a dusty photo album shed hidden at the bottom of her suitcase. She pointed to a faded picture of two little girls in matching dresses, standing in front of the very house they were in. "That's me," she said, her finger trembling over the image of a smiling child. "And that's my sister Lily." The second girl wasn't smiling. She disappeared when I was 7. All they found was a doll that looked exactly like her. Glass eyes that reflect his flashlight beam. Emma's face, perfect in every detail, stares back at him. The doll wears Emma's clothes, the yellow sundress she had on this morning. He runs back through the woods, clutching the doll to his chest, branches tearing at his clothes and skin. Sarah sees him emerging from the trees and stands, hope and dread warring on her face. Through the longest night of their lives, they wait. Sarah holds the doll, rocking it gently as she once rocked Emma. Mark paces the forest edge, unable to sit, unable to accept what's happening. In the dim light of dawn, while mist still clings to the forest floor, the doll's mouth opens with a tiny click. Emma's voice emerges, small and frightened. "Daddy? Mommy? I can't move. I can see you, but I can't move." The doll's voice continued through the black hours, each word pushing deeper into the night. It spoke of a pact centuries old, whispered between Sarah's ancestors and something ancient that lived beneath the forest floor. When morning brushed the horizon with pale fingers, Sarah stood. Her face had changed. Something had settled behind her eyes. I watched her walk to the edge of the woods, where shadows still lingered. The sun climbed higher. Hours passed in silence until rustling came from the trees. Emma emerged, stumbling, human again. Her eyes clear, her skin flushed with life. We left Blackwood that day, left everything. Sometimes I catch Emma whispering to something in her backpack. Sometimes at night, I swear I hear Sarah's voice, soft, wooden, patient, coming from my daughter's room.